I stay active because of the way it makes me feel. It's the way it elevates my mood.
It's good for the brain. It gets you out. It gets you meeting people.
Every Sunday morning we take part in the park run. And his brother Fionn and Cian started the park runs together, and they have done over 100 each now at this stage.
I like to see Cian happy when he finishes the race, and the sense of accomplishment.
Go out here, take part. You will gain more friends. You will gain a lot of freedom. So go out there and enjoy it.
There is challenges as well associated with getting out and getting active, but if you think outside the box, there is ways and means of getting out and doing all activities.
Session, we're going outdoors, though still virtually. There's probably never been a harder time in the modern era to stay active and healthy, despite the lifting of restrictions in Ireland at least, and some hope of a vaccine on the horizon. But joining us now to discuss the benefits, challenges and opportunities for people with disabilities accessing the great outdoors are Nikki Bradley of the Motivation Factory, Kieran Munley of Sport Ireland, and John Hines of Kinsale Outdoor Education Centre. Folks, you're very, very welcome. As you'll have seen, we're punctuating today's events with some inspiring women. So let's start with one more. Marathoner, trekker, adventurer, Nikki Bradley. Just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, well, I am, as you said, adaptive adventure, half marathoner. I attempted a Guinness World Record. I've scaled a glacier in Iceland, done the fan dance, which is a trek in Wales, all while relying heavily on crutches.
And tell us about the crutches. Would you just give us a little bit of the background, please, Nikki?
Of course. So I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma when I was 16. I'm 34 now. Shouldn't tell my age as I get older, but I am getting older. I was a regular 16-year-old, and overnight my life changed. Dealing with cancer at that age, or at any age, is difficult. But unfortunately, because as much as my treatment prevented any further cancer developing, which is amazing, the radiotherapy destroyed the bone in my right hip, and I've been left on crutches ever since. So since 2013, actually, I've been a permanent crutch user.
It's been an extraordinary adventure, though, for you. You have, as Joanne before, you've not let it stand in your way in any way. You've actually gone out of your way to take on activities that would be difficult for anyone.
Well, that's it. When I was told that I would remain on crutches forever, I decided to look at it from a different point of view. So instead of looking at the crutches as an obstacle or as a barrier between me and the outdoors and adventure, I thought I would actually look at ways that I could use them to my advantage. One of the things I love the most is to hike, and being from Donegal, there's lots of mountains nearby that I can make the most of. And actually I find using my crutches aids hiking. So a lot of people will actually rely on mountain poles when they walk up and down mountains, and I just happen to have them anyway. So I tend to be, because I'm so used to them, I'm well trained on them, so I tend to pass people out on the way down. Certainly don't pass people out on the way up. I'm quite slow, but I make up the time on the way down. So there's been lots of things I've been able to do where having crutches has actually helped. So it's all really about the way you look at it.
So for ski poles, read crutches.
Exactly.
Obviously things have changed for all of us over the last 9 months to a year. How has COVID-19 impacted on your outdoors life?
I have to say, being very honest, well, I'm very lucky where I live. I live in the countryside, so getting access to the outdoors has been easy. But when we went into our first lockdown and the gyms closed, I would rely on my gym and on my local physiotherapy centre where I get regular Pilates to help with pain relief. So I found that during the first lockdown, my pain went through the roof, and I'm still actually trying to control that ever since. So it's been a tough year on me pain-wise. However, it's been a brilliant year on me, or for me, in other areas, basically making the most of what I have on my doorstep. And I think that's something that most people can relate to, whether you live in the city or you live in the country. There are places you can go. You just have to be a little bit creative in what you deem to be a normal form of exercise. You know, we don't have to rely on the gyms. There are things that we can do right on our doorstep that will help and keep our fitness levels to where they were before COVID.
Great. I'm just going to pick you up there on that pain. Was that brought about by the fact that you couldn't access your normal care, or was it also the stress and difficulty of the time?
I would say, so I have chronic nerve and muscle damage, especially the nerve damage. Anybody that's had it knows that it can come and go very rapidly. So if there's a change in your normal routine, that can cause a flare up. So I do put it down to the fact that I couldn't, for a while anyway, I couldn't get access to my normal, I suppose they're not really, well, the Pilates I would deem a treatment, but my gym going was part of my pain relief. So definitely those services being taken away really did impact me. The stress and working from home all the time, I work from home anyway, but not being able to get out and, you know, get up and do things more regularly, I think that created a bit of stress, which means that you've more time as well when you're working from home to think about the pain. And I do think that kind of encouraged it to snowball a little bit. So it was a combination of the two.
I understand. We're going to talk to Ciara Munley in a second, but just before we do, Sport Ireland have a new policy on outdoors and outdoor education and getting outside. What would you like to see for the rest of the country, especially those of us who maybe don't have access to the hills of Donegal?
I would like to see information more widely available. So when I would come across people quite often that they don't really know where to start looking for solutions there. If they don't happen to know where to go to find the answers, they can feel that there's no help out there. So I think that, and Sport Ireland are very good at this, they will do an amazing marketing campaign around this, but I would encourage that they go into schools, they encourage people to use their voice, use the word of mouth to get these amazing services and the knowledge of these services out there. Because, as I said, it's all about the way you think. My heart goes out to people that live in cities because it definitely is more difficult. However, it's not impossible. And if you have the knowledge that these services are available, then, you know, with the right people, there's no limits to what you can actually do, despite what we may face in 2021.
Okay, thank you. Ciara Munley, you're the outdoor recreation manager for Sport Ireland. You've heard there what Nikki had to say. There was a lot of praise there for Sport Ireland. Would you talk us through this new policy, which clearly has become much more important this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sport Ireland just released their policy on sport and physical activities in the outdoors, and it's the first time we've actually released an outdoor specific policy. And within that, the vision is to create opportunities for everyone to participate in sport and physical activities in the outdoors. And in that policy, we do have goals around the promotion and encouragement of improved facilities for people with a disability. And we also have a goal around targeting new opportunities for people to partake in outdoor recreation opportunities. So it's a really big area, and we have noticed that we do need to start promoting, as Nikki said there, promoting what is out there for people to partake in outdoor recreation, but also help in building it up and letting it become more wide known. We're also in the process of delivering a national digital database of sport and recreation facilities. So what we're hoping that will do as well is have all the outdoor recreation facilities across Ireland and show what's available there, because there is just that little bit of fear when you go to a place where you're not sure of what actually is available in that area for someone with a disability. So that's really important to us, and it is something that we're going to be working on. It is a priority of ours for 2021.
Yeah, some of the facilities are there. As we've heard, just getting the word out is the issue. But if you have an opportunity now to talk to a lot of people who are your anchor tenants, if you will, would you pick out maybe 2 or 3 examples of outdoor education opportunities that you would be particularly proud of?
Yeah, absolutely. Sport Ireland, in conjunction with CARA, are actually delivering training on the Access the Great Outdoors guidelines. And what these guidelines, basically, they were developed by Sport Ireland and the Irish Wheelchair Association, and provides practical information and advice and guidance to organisations and individuals for making outdoor recreation facilities more accessible for people with disabilities. And I think sometimes it just comes down to that there's a little bit of a lack of knowledge of what people can do to improve these facilities for people with a disability, and then sometimes they're not even aware that their facilities aren't accessible. So CARA has delivered their pilot training the end of this year, and they're going to be continuing delivering the training next year. And I think it's very important for these organisations to get involved in this training. Organisations such as local authorities, Quilcha, local community and development groups. And it's just, we want to ensure that we're making outdoor facilities more accessible, and it's really important. So that would definitely be one training that I think would be very valuable when it comes to 2021. And I would encourage people to liaise with CARA and try to book your places on this training, because there's already been a massive amount of increase in interest in this. So just make sure you get in there nice and early.
Now, I know you come from a very outdoorsy background yourself, so you've always had this type of interest. But you talked there about the explosion of interest. Just tell us what the last 9 months have been like once, clubs were locked down, care programs were locked down, people couldn't do their usual sports indoors or out. But the great outdoors was still there for people to access. Tell us about that change this year due to Covet.
Yeah, so the outdoors provided a great opportunity for people to take in physical activity. As you said, when the clubs and the gyms were closed, the outdoors were always there. And I think a lot of people took to the outdoors to get their physical activity, and it highlighted the impacts and of the mental and health well-beings that physical activity can do, and also the outdoors. But I think that it's really important that people experience this firsthand. And Ipsos conducted research on behalf of Sport Ireland during this period of lockdown and when lockdown eased, and nearly 80% of adults have made physical activity part of their weekly routine, and 77% of them say that it's more important to be active now during COVID compared to other times. So people have experienced the benefits firsthand, and now they're willing to continue on with this journey of physical activity. And I think the outdoors are really important as well, because they offer you a sense of freedom and adventure and a place to get away from everything, especially when you're locked down in your house, and a lot of people are working from their house as well. And it was really important. I think people understood that the outdoors isn't just, your mountains and your parks, but the outdoors is literally just outside your front door. It's a walk around the estate. It's the greens that were there, and it really gave people the opportunity to discover their hidden gems in their areas and what was available to them. And I think that it just highlighted the fact even more, but of what the outdoors can do for people, and the places that were right under your nose, but you might not have necessarily been aware of it.
Absolutely. Let's talk to one of those places that is right under our nose, or at least it is if you live near Kinsale. John Hines of the Kinsale Outdoor Education Centre, you've been at the forefront of affording opportunities for people with disabilities to access OECs. Tell us a bit about what you've been doing.
Well, thanks very much, Niall, and good morning to everybody here joining us on the live cast today. I suppose from the start, I'd just like to state that we are part of a network of 12 centres around Ireland. We're all providing a wide range of outdoor education opportunities. So this year has been very difficult for the centres. I mean, during the first lockdown, there was very little happening. But I think as time passed, we were able to make sense of the situation, and we did get clearance under the further education and training banner to remain open through the most recent lockdown. So there has been a lot happening here in Kinsale, I'm delighted to report. So we've got out on the road with our mobile climbing wall, and we've had our wheelie boat active right throughout the summer season. And one thing in particular, I suppose, there were a lot of families under a lot of pressure during the first lockdown, where if they had a young person in the household with a disability, the range of activities open to them were very, very limited. So even just being able to have the wheelie boat there for them all to get out as a family and to feel the freedom of the outdoors that we know and celebrate was fantastic. So look, despite the challenges, it has been a good year for us.
You have gone out of your way to make activities inclusive. That hasn't been something that's always been true of OECs, and naturally a lot of people have concerns about the greater risks sometimes outdoors, mountaineering, water and so on. What have you done to make things more inclusive?
That's a really good question, Niall, and I'm glad you've asked that. Training is the key. When we work with our partners in the academic sector, when we work with the CARA Centre and the national governing bodies, when we bring those pools of expertise and knowledge together, we can create training opportunities for outdoor instructors throughout Ireland and indeed abroad, who sometimes come and join us, to go back into their communities and create pockets of activity. And I think that is the thing that will have the greatest effect. And you're right, in the past we were just feeling our way through these, but I did speak to someone this week who works in this sector abroad, and today is a day of celebration, and it is worth acknowledging that Ireland is very strong in the international community of inclusion and the outdoors. And so the policy of accessing the great outdoors is the next step to making it completely normal for people with a disability to participate alongside everybody in outdoor education opportunities.
And John, what would you say to a parent who has some concerns or fears about bringing a child to an OEC?
Well, they are valid concerns. To acknowledge them, first of all. We work very closely with our parents and our students on understanding perhaps their circumstances to start with, but building a package of, I suppose, risk assessment, adapting the activities if needs be, putting the correct training supports in place for our staff and our instructors. And sometimes, you know, we do have to get out there and just trial things, albeit in a softer adventure setting to start with. But most of the time, we get brushed aside by the student, said, no, I want to get fully involved. So, look, there is a bit of a relationship building process that needs to happen. But that's no different to working with any other student. And I think we're all aware of the growth in the concept of universal design for learning. So we just view all our learners as having their own personal or specific learning needs. And it is our job to address those and make it normal.
Very good. Now, as you know, and this question is to all three of you, we have a chat box running through the day, and thank you all very much for the questions you're sending in. Just one that's come up a couple of times, and whichever of the three of you would like to answer this, please go ahead. I'll ask it perhaps first to Nikki. Nikki, the question we're getting is, would you have any advice for non-verbal children on what sports or activities they might get interested in? Non-verbal children.
Well, do you know what? I suppose it's, I don't know, the things that I do, basically going outside and hiking, that's all about view. It's all about the experience. It's about feeling the feet, or feeling the earth under your feet, feeling it sounds cheesy, but feeling the wind on your face. It's highlighting all your other senses, and it is just making the most of what is around you. So I'm kind of like a broken record when it comes to hiking, but I think that it ticks so many boxes, and it doesn't matter what your fitness level is. I'm not suggesting you climb the highest peak in your county, but I'm just saying start with a hill and see how you feel, because the the feeling you get at the top and then the feeling you get at the bottom, that sense of achievement, will bring you back again and again. So I would highly recommend that form of exercise.
Nikki, a lot of your life has been spent in individual sports and individual pursuits. Do you think there are more opportunities for what's now called sport out of the back of your car, or is there still room for team sports and club activities and so on?
Oh no, well I work for Triathlon Ireland, so you know it's all about there's lots of people around you for that. So there's room for both. When it comes to sport and activity, I think there's room for everything, and it should be and will be fully inclusive. I love the term sport out of the back of your car. In terms of surfing, sea swimming, and all of that, that's very much it. My dry robe lives in my boot, and it's, you know, there's room for both. I would love to see, with the year that we've had, obviously team sports have been hit hard. And people that play team sports have really felt that this year, and it's been very tough. But fingers crossed, in 2021 we can get back to more team sports, because there's so much learning with the team sport. You know, it's not just about, with my own pursuits, as much as the big challenges have been me doing them, there's been a team of people that have got me to whatever peak I've been getting to the top of, or whatever race I've been hoping to finish. I've never started and finished something just by myself. And I think that's important. Most people that do things alone aren't truly alone. There's always people there helping them. But yeah, my hope for 2021 is that we can get back to a level of some sort of normality, whether that's across team sports or solo things. But by all means, try both. I've done it and I love both equally.
Excellent, thank you. I'm going to put that same question to Ciara. Ciara, non-verbal children, is there anything that you know of that's a particularly good way to go for non-verbal children?
Yeah, I think Nikki summed it up well there in terms of, you know, walking as well and hiking. But I would encourage the people to touch base with the local sports partnership, and especially the Sports Inclusion Disability Officer. You know, they run a number of programs and initiatives across every county that are targeted at all different types of disabilities. I know that that they would run anything from walking or hiking or even the park runs, but then they also do activities with bikes as well that would be completely suitable for people who are children that are non-verbal. So I would definitely touch base with them, because they would have a lot more knowledge in terms of the direct programs and initiatives that could also be run in that person's area or their location.
So Ciara, let's say we're starting from square one and we know nothing about LSPs or local organisations, and we're just, you know, in a house in the middle of the country, and we want to know, where can I go for some information on my local clubs, whether my local leisure centre is inclusive. Is there somewhere that they can start? A website, a number, or what?
Yeah, so they could always go onto the Sport Ireland website, and we have a number of different areas in the Sport Ireland website with the outdoors. Under the participation strand, that's where the local sports partnerships would sit, and also we have some information on CARA. I would again probably get them to go onto a local sports partnership their web page or their Facebook page. They're always promoting stuff in their programs initiatives on Facebook. They also have information on clubs as well. I think that if you saw what clubs are in your area, you could see whether they signed up to the Disability Charter as well. I definitely think, as the Sports Inclusion Disability Officers are the person of expertise within each county, that they would be the person to go to. So if you go onto the Sport Ireland website and under local sports partnerships, we have a direct link to each of their websites and a direct link to a contact person. And I'd say pick up the phone. They're always willing to, you know, get on the phone and answer any queries or answer any questions. And I think they would point you in the right place. In terms of, we have trails as well throughout Ireland. On the Sport Ireland website, we have a list of all the trails that are on the national the trails register. And if you look under those, there's a number which we have multi-access, will be suitable for people with disabilities. So that's some places to go. Again, I think our development of the National Digital Database, so it's going to be a place, a central location that will hopefully have all the information on what facilities are available in areas, everything from sports clubs to parks to beaches to clubs and everything. When we have that up and developed, I think that is going to provide to be a very important database for people to see what is available in their areas and see what kind of initiatives and programs are being run and to see what's accessible for them.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you. John, question that's come in, again from a couple of people. Surfing for children with additional needs. What's your advice on where to go and what to do? Surfing.
Thank you for that question. Well, that's an area that I have a little bit of experience in. Many of our delegates here today at the conference will be aware of an organisation known as Surf to Heal. That started here in Ireland back in 2008 and has very rapidly grew into a network of trained volunteers throughout Ireland. I think, at the height of it, we probably had 7 or 8 locations on the go. So that's a fantastic way of people reaching out if they have a child or a young person that would like to try surfing. What brought a great moment of joy to many of us lately was we saw a piece on television in the UK. You might be familiar with that TV programme, DIY SOS, I think it's called, or something like that. But Surfability had started in South Wales, and they've actually developed a dedicated adaptive surfing centre. And when I saw that, it took me back to the start of Surf to Heal, and I thought, my God, we still have more work to do in terms of building dedicated facilities, maybe not just for surfing, but for other adapted or inclusive outdoor opportunities. But yeah, a good start point, just have a look online, any of the social media channels for Surf to Heal. As I said, there are multiple locations throughout Ireland. They did have a challenging year this year because of the restrictions, but I know the appetite is very strong from those volunteers to get back to normal or increased levels of activity next summer.
At this stage, John, how many or what percentage of the outdoor education centres would be inclusive or accessible, would you say?
All of them have instructors on their teams that have a passion for this type of work. There are various centres that would have activities that they're particularly skilled or knowledgeable in. In our case, it would be powerboating and any of the canoe or paddle sports. But for example, others might have more expertise around rock climbing and indeed caving and any of the activities that are relevant to their region. I think one thing that we are very focused on at this stage is trying to have a more cohesive approach to this in the future, so we are more aware of each other's strengths and opportunities, and I think we need to market that better going forward. As I mentioned already, an emphasis on improved training for our community of instructors is something that I'd like to focus on for the year ahead. But there is good opportunities, but perhaps need to be marketed better.
Thank you. Absolutely. I think that's a message we're getting all the time. We have the opportunities, but we just need to know more about them, and we need to get the word out. I'd like to finish where I started with Nikki, please. Nikki, imagine a child looking at you, seeing all the things you've done. You're a motivational speaker, you're an inspiring person, but what message would you have to someone at the start of the journey?
I'd say that don't let your own fears stop you from taking that first step, because that's what I did. I spent the majority of my 20s waiting to get better, and it was only when I was told that I wouldn't get better that I actually started living. And I have some small regrets that I didn't get stuck in sooner, but it's all part of the journey.
And together with those great pictures, we got a great sense of the inspiring idea that you've given to so many people. So thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Ciara. Thank you, John.